Welcome to Carrying Wayward, a supernatural podcast for fans who aren't ready to let go and newcomers to the series who are ready to jump in. I'm Drew Schulman.
And I'm Marie Vigourou. In this episode, we're diving into Supernatural Season 9, Episode 3, I'm No Angel. Let's get this show on the actual road. So what did I do? What did I do today?
You may have started reading the wrong document for our notes.
Maybe I was already a week ahead. Maybe I was already on Slumber Party.
Maybe you're just really excited for that episode. I mean, a slumber party sounds fun to me.
I think I really am.
And I'm sure a supernatural slumber party would have no bad, things happen there.
I mean, the cool thing is that basically like supernatural slumber parties are kind of like supernatural conventions if you stay at a hotel. Like that's what it is. Pretty much.
Oh, I'm on board with that one.
Yeah. So I gotta say that I'm a little disappointed that we're not going to be talking about Slumber Party today.
Given what this episode entails, I think I would go bugs over this episode purely for the content we have to cover.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it's true. We do have a very heavy episode ahead of us too. And in my mind, we were going to cover Slumber Party.
I'm guessing we're up for a much brighter episode next week. I'm looking forward to it after this one.
Oh, I'm so upset about this. Okay. So before we get started on this terribly depressing episode, we want to thank everyone who is supporting us on Patreon and on Ko-fi. Honestly, your support means that we can be a listener-supported podcast and not like a host-supported podcast. So if you enjoy listening to us every week, especially now that we're back, please go check out carryingwayward.com to get the links to all of the things.
Yep, and we'll just do a last little reminder that we have made some changes to the format of the show. Namely, I've taken over story time, kind of letting me be the fresh eyes on the story and let Mary fill in the gaps and teach me, while Mary has taken over critical time with some very fun questions every week that have me scratching my head and excited to hear everyone else's answers when these episodes finally make it out. And lastly, we end each week with a little "What have we learned this week" segment.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, we really hope that you're liking these changes because we're pretty excited about them. It's been really fun to use this format so far, and we're just happy to be back and to be doing this all together.
We're so happy to be back that even this episode I'm smiling despite the episode.
Well, it's also because I thought it was Slumber Party. Just saying, like I'm heartbroken about this. Okay. But I do guess it is time for me to ask, are we ready for the recap?
Count me down.
All right, 3, 2, 1, disappointment.
We have Cass making his way as a human through the human world, living with the unhoused, taking odd jobs, trying to find his way through. It's super adorable. I could watch this as an entire episode, just Cass being Cass in the most adorable way. We have Dean continues to lie to Sam about Ezekiel. We have Ezekiel saying things are getting bad and worse. We have why am I blanking what else happened in the episode? I really all want to get to the end is when Cass meets this wonderful lady who takes him home and things ultimately go very, very wrong, resulting in another Ezekiel save to keep Cass alive and Sam in the dark and knocked out for the umpteenth time.
Sam is going to have lasting brain damage from all of these concussions. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this episode was written by Brad Buckner and Eugenie Ross Lemming. It was directed by Kevin Hooks, and it originally aired on October 22nd, 2013. Now, because I thought that we were doing Slumber Party, I don't actually have a long game here. But so I'm going to improvise it a la recap. We finally have Dean and Cass reunited for a very short time.
For literally 8.4 seconds. Like, my God, could you make this any more stressful for me? I think this episode was so harsh on both of us. We're also both missing something I just remembered. We meet Bartholomew.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah.
I thought he'd be a bigger deal, and this episode got so much bigger than him. But I do need to point out how evil it is that they are not just doing things the way they do, because we're going to go over that a bit, but like he's using podcasts for evil.
Arguably, a lot of people use podcasts for evil. I have a couple of names in mind.
Yup. You know what? As soon as I said it,
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Who's the biggest earner on Spotify? Just like, shh, we're gonna get banned.
this week our theme is consent. Well, I guess we finally have our big bad for the season. Another angel who so desperately needs to be punched right in the dick again, weaponizing people's faith and forcing them basically into consenting to being used as weapons and or, havens for fallen angels to recover in. Like, I very, very much dislike him. As far as Sam and Dean go this week, they're a bit less screen time oriented. So most of today will be focused on Cass, which I'm not complaining about. Are you?
Human Cass has a very special place in my heart, to be honest with you.
Oh my God, he does. He really does.
Yeah. Oh, Cass.
But to get Sam and Dean out of the way, not just, they don't do much. They push the story along, and they're really just sort of there as a MacGuffin at the end. But really, our big thing with Sam this week is it appears Zeke is getting a bit more powerful. Like he can step in mid conversation without Sam noticing. Now, not only is Sam the unwilling host to this angel, but this hitchhiker has the ability to take the wheel from him from time to time without Sam being knocked out, which, again, might be for the better given the number of times he's hit his head so far.
Right. Right. I mean, I think it comes back to like what we were saying last week about like how little white lies just kind of like tend to snowball into very, very big lies. Now, at this point, Ezekiel is getting comfortable in Sam's skin, right? And so he feels a little bit more confident in taking over whenever he feels like it or whenever he deems it to be appropriate. And I think that it also speaks to what happens when you do bad things, right? Like in this case, violating somebody's consent. It starts off with taking over Sam's body in order to save his life, right? Like so something that is kind of like you try to justify, and then it turns into like taking over just to kind of have like a quick chat with Dean. Like the violations suddenly seem a lot less bad than they did at the beginning, right? Like because you're getting used to it, you're getting accustomed to doing those bad things.
Ezekiel is normalizing the possession of Sam in a way that is like, and again, it's the fact that it's played off so nonchalantly. Like they almost even go for the joke moment where like when Sam does come back to the conversation, it's like, to us, it's funny, like, oh, he no idea this happened, and he's just continuing his sentence like nothing changed. But like the reality of being like forcibly blacked out like that, and someone taking control with under the guise of they were given consent to do so, but the consent was based on a lie and deceit, which is very much thematic this week.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Yeah, which again leads us right into Dean with his whole association with this week's theme and the way that he is taking away Sam's ability to consent. Like, I don't know. It's so icky. It is so icky the way that like Dean seems okay with this because it is for the greater good, despite doing something so rotten and distrustful to his brother. He's continuing to lie, and now not just to Sam, but also he's lying to Cass regarding his interactions with Ezekiel again. And like, this is going to backfire. Like, I'm getting the vibe sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I mean, again, like it's the same thing we've been saying since last week, and honestly, since week one at this point. Like it's kind of interesting how quickly this has devolved, right, into something that's like really, really bad. And we know it's not leading anywhere good. We know that, right? Like we have 8 seasons of history that is telling us this.
It's interesting how this theme is so prevalent this week, but is so connected throughout these 3 episodes. Like this season and consent seems so well tied that to have it as the focus of this episode seems like so soon, but this was definitely the right place to do it. to jump back a little bit again, the idea of denormalizing this, we actually for the first time have him like effectively summon who I know he is now. We are now referring to as Zeke more frequently. I'm just gonna adopt the name; it's easier.
Yeah. Hmm.
But like summons him to ask for help. Like I really want to bring this up as we've now gone from the Zeke, the silent passenger, to Zeke, the sometimes secret informant. All the while, Sam still no idea he's unwittingly playing host to this. Like,
It's just so uncool. Like,
yeah.
and again, like I know I think that we need to remind people that like this was to save Dean and to save Dean,
Hmm.
to save Sam. Oh well, ooh,
Well, I mean,
that's an interesting thing that I just said. It's an interesting Freudian slip because yeah, it was to save Sam, but who did that really save, right? So I think that like Dean justifies it by saying, oh well, at least Sam is alive. But again, like if I'm thinking about it in terms of like forcing a medical procedure on somebody who didn't want it, like it just feels icky all over again.
oh yeah, Icky is a very apt description of this week's events. Um, so I do want to go over Dean's lies this week. First being his lie to Sam regarding how they found this other Reaper. Sam, of course, starts questioning it because Sam is smart enough to put two and two together that something's not adding up. And again, it's brushed away, and you know what? It's still believable enough because it's like the reasonable conclusion is like, okay, yeah, I guess that's the most simple answer, so it's probably true. And why would Dean lie about something so benign? Obviously, we're missing things, but Sam is at least, like I predicted, catching on pretty quickly that some shit's happening.
Hmm. Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? That's one thing that I mentioned that like what lying to Sam does to Dean. And even if Sam doesn't know exactly what he's lying about, he's going to be able to tell that he's lying, right? Like, come on.
Yeah. Secondly, we then have the lie about how Cass was saved, claiming that he betrayed April after making a deal with her. Just the lies are getting a bit messy, and again, this ticking time bomb that is literally ticking away. Like we are like seconds from implosion.
No, I know. Like it's honestly, it just really feels like he's also getting more confident in his lies, like as they grow, right? Like as much as Zeke is getting more confident in taking over Sam's body, Dean is also getting more confident in lying to him just outright. And the thing is, like, I wonder a lot about the tipping point of like where we go from like Dean made a bad decision by allowing this to like Dean is actively and continuously betraying Sam by allowing this to continue. Because, like, if I were Sam, right, like, I could understand a moment of weakness in, like, making the deal when he was watching Sam die. Like, I feel like I could understand that. But I would also be like, so at this point, you have actively lied to me and kept me in the dark about this for how long exactly?
Like again, I know the audience and the rationale they want us as an audience to see is the it was for the greater good, and the big, I'm assuming, reveal of something's going to go horribly wrong with this whole scenario. And yes, I imagine there'll be some level of fallout between Sam and Dean, but I'm I think what I am expecting from Sam is not what I'm going to get from the show.
You know, it's strange because I do love the Carver era. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm bad mouthing it, right? Like, because I do love it. I think it's some of the, mm, mm. It is some of the seasons that I really do enjoy. However, I do wish that there had been a different way to explore the angst between these two because, like, we did so much of that in the early seasons, and it was the stuff that really got to me and that kind of annoyed me. And so I know that like whenever we get into this like hiding things from one another, I just roll my eyes like way up in the back of my head.
So I think we've earned a break from these two and the trauma they are unfolding upon each other, or one more than the other. Let's move on to Cass, little human Cass. he's really learning what it means to be human. Like he's working jobs, he's provided that were provided for him by the church for those in need. He's sharing food with other unhoused individuals and accepting the kindness of strangers. Like it really is this beautiful, like, look at humanity from an angle that at least myself, I can speak for in my privilege. I've never had to endure, but seeing it from the other side, seeing what life is like and how humans can be a variety of different scenarios they can be in.
Mhm. I honestly really, really love the fact that he's also learning about the more trivial things about being human, right? Or at least like what it means to be human through embodiment, like as having a body, like having to sleep and urinate and brush his teeth.
Oh, the
I mean,
toothpaste.
the toothpaste.
Kills
I
me.
don't know. I don't know. Could somebody let me know? I don't know if that was like in the script or if that was a Misha special, but honestly, that was just so good. And the fact that he's doing this as he's talking about like urination and how often he has to urinate. And I'm just like, this is what it means. This is also what it means to be human. It means having a body, and it sometimes means having a body that doesn't necessarily work the way that you wish it did, right? Like it's like touching upon that idea that like your body is not just a vessel for your mind kind of thing, right? Like it's that you are also like your body is a part of you and a part of your identity in that sense. And so anyway, I just think that that's incredibly cool that just in those quick little moments like we're able to see that. And I just also kind of wonder because Cass kind of always seemed like he had really little patience with Dean about those things, like about like things that are kind of actually super important to Dean, like sleeping and stuff, like we know how much he loves those physical comforts and those physical things in
Hmm.
life. And I'm kind of excited to see how maybe that's going to change or transform their relationship, or maybe just make Cass more understanding.
I am picturing a world where the two of them sharing a bed and Cass like lets Dean sleep in super long. And like the Cass being like lying there
Hmm.
perfectly awake, being like, I could be doing this, I could be doing that. I probably have to go do this, but I don't want to wake him up. He likes to sleep, so I should like my sleep. So I'm gonna stay here. I just think it's adorable. And I'm loving human Cass. I'm so excited to see what it changes down the road in him, in his relationship with humans in general, and just what other little weird quirks we're going to find through this.
Yeah, exactly.
I do want to focus on it. I feel like there's one. This is a little bit of like a little diamond in the rough of this episode, and it's the interaction with the woman in the church for a moment. Like we know Cass to be very literal and a bit too forthcoming with the truth when discussing matters of heaven and angels with mortals. But despite his very literal reasoning with the woman, she makes it clear his reality is not her reality. Because while this episode definitely shows us the evils that can come from abusing belief, it's that same belief that allows her to carry on because it's the heaven
Mm.
she wants to believe in and it gives her strength. Whether heaven were in full operating order or the mess that and empty nest that it is now, it doesn't affect her because it's faith, it's belief.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that like we see that because people are like, you have no faith, Dean. But like at the end of the day, Dean has faith in his ability and his brother's ability to do the impossible, right? Like we'll find another way. There's always another way. We'll find a way. Like those are all things that Dean has said or will say. And yeah, it just reminds me of those moments on the show where Dean has faith, very strong faith in himself and in Sam and in Cass and yeah.
It weirdly makes me think of another show for a moment to play this game. There is an episode of House where he is doing surgery on somebody who is part of a religious order. So all the nuns are there. And he makes the request to them of like, no praying. I want this to be successful and not have you think that God did it instead of me. And again, it's played as a joke. It's funny. It's silly. It's House being an ass. But it's that moment of like, at the end of the day, he is successful. Whether they prayed for it, whether they believed in him, whether they believed it was in God, whether they like, I'm not saying their faith is wrong or one was right and one wasn't. At the end of the day, the thing they wanted happened, and they had faith in it happening, whether it be through the skill of the doctor or God's divine will in the skill of the doctor, which to me has always been this thing where it's like faith doesn't need to be strictly religious. Like you said with Dean, he has faith in himself, in his abilities, in his learnings, and what he and him and Sam can do, that it doesn't really matter where the faith is directed at. It's having faith that matters.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get there eventually, so we're going to talk about Cass's encounter with April. And of course, this brings up consent. April straight up lied to him in order to earn his trust, and even go so far as to have sex with him. Cass's consent in this scenario is predicated on lies, and thus the consent is irrelevant. This may sound like a fairly wild leap, but I actually had a discussion on this very subject with Lucia and Nell when I was a guest on Totally Normal about that on an episode discussing the film Wedding Crashers. Rape by deception is still rape. And that is exactly what April does here.
I think my biggest issue with what's going on here, because again, I thought we were covering Slumber Party, so I have not rewatched this episode before coming into this recording.
You know what? You may have secretly won that lottery there a little bit.
I think I might have. But I will say this. I think because I don't remember exactly what she lies to him about. Like she lies about she lies about being a normal person, right? Like that's the lie.
Yeah, she essentially plays this role of like this sweet, innocent, helpful, I just want to help the poor and the needy and the homeless. And based off this faux relationship she builds on this predication of her being a person who just wants to help and really sees a future with this really amazing person, when in the reality she is a reaper who's there to kill him and just wanted to have some fun beforehand.
So I think that my biggest issue with what's going on in this particular situation, and I'm going to talk about that more in Critical Time, it's the power differential between April and Cass. Like, the fact when we're talking, it's the fact that like he's homeless and she's inviting him into her house. Like he might feel as though if he doesn't do what she wants and sleep with her, then she might kick him out, right? And that's coercion. And so you start adding like coercion, deception, and then like obviously the sexual encounter becomes less and less like consensual in my view. And it's also unclear to me if April's body belongs to her, like as a reaper, or if she's possessing some woman's body. Again, I don't really remember that necessarily from the episode. It's not quite clear to me. And obviously one of those is definitely much more horrifying than the other.
Yeah, I will at least say if I'm up to date on my Reaper lore, they have a form that appears human. There's no possession involved. So I'm thinking we can cross that off the list at least. At least, and that's the smallest victory and not enough to make this any better.
Well, I mean, it is a pretty big victory, though.
Yes, on its own, a pretty big victory. Yes, on its own, a pretty big victory. The whole scenario as a whole isn't made much better.
No. Of course,
that,
of course.
It's her own body,
yeah, for sure,
that she's using to do this thing. But much like at the top of the episode where we kind of forgot about it, I'm gonna slide Bart in here real quick at the end. And again, like this,
I think you overestimate his importance on the show.
I mean, I really kind of assume he's going to be a big bad villain for a while. Like the idea that he's like using this bumpkin podcaster to like spread the word and getting people to literally walk in and be like, fill me with Angel, and the angels fill and they go bad fit and they blow up. Like the idea of abusing the implicit trust people have in you via their beliefs and using it for your own personal gain is already awful. Like, unfortunately, we live in a world where that happens quite frequently, but abusing the trust and tricking people into consenting for things they truly do not understand is like a step more evil in that direction.
For sure. I mean, I think that that's like a perversion of like using consent in order to justify the shitty things that this person is doing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they said it was okay. Like, but did they really know it was gonna happen?
And you know what? Like, I feel like this episode kind of cemented it for me finally. And it's that we're really once again seeing how angels, much like demons, just see humans as disposable, making them just as much a problem for the brothers this time around.
I honestly kind of love how open, out in the open it is. I mean, like in early seasons, like it took us a while to kind of like realize that angels were dicks, right?
Yep.
Like, but now like angels or demons, like whatever, it's all the same anyway, same difference kind of thing, right? And I kind of like that storytelling wise because it's like, well, how do you differentiate the demons from the angels? And it's like, okay, well, let's see what's gonna happen in the next few episodes.
Same same old soda, just a new bottle. So my thoughts on this week's episode, my little story thoughts. The lies are getting out of hand. Sam is getting wise that something's off. Even Cass, who is known to be fairly gullible, almost seems to feel like something's weird when Dean comes to him and the whole like you can't stay here. Um, like how long can Sam really go not figuring this out? Like we're already seeing the cracks in it, but like really, how many more episodes are we gonna get with Sam not figuring it out? I feel like he's gonna go like all Mulder on us soon about like missing time at this point. Like I want to believe
Oh,
that Sam will figure this out. Um,
oh,
Also, I just want a B plot now where Cass gets into like a good friendship with someone, like a hangout after work and play Xbox kind of friendship. Like also the idea of Cass as a Twitch streamer seems like the funniest thing I could ever imagine. Um, but I just want to like I just need to know what's going on with Cass not staying. Like how what are you explaining to make Cass not stay and then having to tell two separate lies to Sam and Cass because they can't be the same lie. Like I my head is spinning with the lies.
I feel like Cass wouldn't say like I'm on Twitch. He would say I have a Twitch.
You should come over later. I'm twitching.
Yes. Oh, I love him so much. But wait, you said something that I liked or that I didn't like, and I had something to say about that. The web of lies, unrelated
Comparing
lies.
Sam to
He's
Mulder?
saying, oh yes, 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 yes. The things that he's saying. Okay, yes. Well, I'm gonna. Oh, am I getting into that a little bit? No, I'm not getting into that. But yes, the fact that like they have to separate them again,
Yep.
comes back to what I was saying before, right? Why are they keeping them so separate? Interesting,
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Yeah, so Cass is not going to be staying in the bunker. As if Dean wouldn't at least like set him up with like a credit card or something. As if he wouldn't be like, okay, well, here's a motel or like here's a place that you can go to, here's a cabin, here's a this. No, he's like, go off on your own, child. Like, what is
Like one, no sense. Like even if this was gonna be a thing where like, okay, Zeke goes, hey, you can't stay, it's dangerous for Sam. Okay, cool. Hey Sam, I want to get Cass somewhere safe that isn't here, so we can't lead people here. So let me go set him up somewhere safe. Give me like I don't know a nice romantic weekend. I mean a weekend away to figure things out. Also, there is a
Be
room.
careful what you wish
Oh
for.
no, what does it mean? What does it mean? But also that like prior to this moment where Zeke tells him you have to get Cass out of here for Sam's sake, or else I'll kill Sam and leave. He was about to bring Cass down to. There's a part of me that's like they would share a room, but also Dean being like adorable would have like chosen a room for Cass and like preemptively set some stuff up for him and like some optional posters to put up and like a small like record collection and a record player to like try some music. Oh,
Listen, I am just saying that what happened there is a travesty and a misunderstanding of Dean as a character.
oh, completely. It is so out of character.
Ah. This episode gives us kind of a double whammy when it comes to consent. One that was intended and one that I'm not so sure was intended. Like, of course, there's the ongoing issue of Sam and Zeke, which we've been talking about since episode one, and which I think is very intentional on the part of the writing team. Like, there's been an ongoing conversation there, and there will continue to be about how, like, a tricked yes is not a real yes, and that the ethical and the moral implications that this has, like, particularly on Dean, is actually quite important, right? But then there's the cast of it all. And this has been an ongoing conversation in fandom for as long as this episode has been out. And the consensus, I would say, is that, like, as a homeless person being invited into April's home, like, the balance of power was very much on April's side, making like coercion a very real thing to consider here. And let's also not gloss over the fact that April lied about who she was, again, making Cass's consent that much shakier. And just as an aside, this is a conversation that I've had a lot on Rude Eats, right? Like just due to the nature of the show Hannibal, but I'm actually okay with like seeing terrible things depicted on screen. Like I actually kind of enjoy that. Actually, like I've enjoyed horror as a genre a lot more than I thought I would. But I enjoy it because it's intentional. Like in Hannibal, Brian Fuller is like fully aware of the horrible things that he has the characters do to each other, right? But in the context of Supernatural, it's a completely different ballgame. Like, first off, let's remember that this is a Buckleming episode, like whose top hits include like the racist trucks and the rapey Amazons and the man fucking his dog who is also a black woman wearing a collar, to name a few, right? And my concern about this, especially about this, like not being shown as intentionally awful is kind of reinforced by the little scene at the end when it's all like turned into a joke about like the protection thing, right? And this is the real kicker. In 2015, Robert Singer, the executive producer of the show, who is married to Eugenie Ross Lemming, he attended a creation convention in Chicago, and he had a Q&A, and one of the questions was specifically about this moment and asking about like the consent issues that kind of surround this representation. And his answer was, "What's consent?"
Ugh.
We're going to link that in the show notes for those who are like, no way, he said that. But yeah, like, so that's why I'm so uneasy with this whole thing. Like, it's not about the actual material being shown on the screen. Like, it's that I'm not sure, or actually, I know that the people who are writing this material don't actually understand the story that they are actually writing. And of course, like, I'm not talking about all the supernatural writers all the time, right? Like, I'm not putting all the eggs into one basket or throwing the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. But this is the kind of stuff that does happen quite a bit on this particular show. So, my question for listeners and for you, Drew, today is how do we as viewers navigate the tension between what's shown on screen and what the creators seem to understand or not about what they're depicting?
I think I feel like a very broad answer here is that it it matters. Ultimately, it matters. The intent matters, but I think what matters more is the way we as an audience understand it. This is media literacy 101. You look at films, books, video games where a message is put across to you as an audience that whether you individually or collectively, people who study or care or discuss this franchise or this media can discern things, can learn, can absorb, and can start conversations around these subjects. Even if in a case like this, the sentiment that seems to be it was all played off as a joke. It was never meant to be oh look, we're playing with the concept of consent and how lying is bad. Uh, like it's yes, from that. Oh god, the fact that he said that at a panel as his answer to what is consent, but like at the end of the day, sure, yucky that's the way it was portrayed in the episode and came and was implied, I guess. But what matters more is us as an audience who can use it as a conversation point, who can discuss this and can learn from it. Again, to go back to my time on talking about Wedding Crashers with Lucia and Nell, it was. I don't think anyone made that movie thinking there'd be people having a conversation about the concept of like lying and coercing to get sex out of these women and how like scummy it is. Like it was made to be a funny haha bro comedy. Like, but at the end of the day, it's us as the people consuming the media who are able to decide what we take away from it, even if that wasn't necessarily the implicit intent of the creative team.
Hmm. I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. I think that there's um I think that there's also a necessity for us to talk about these things. Like I mean I'm a parent. And so one of the things that I always do whenever we're watching a movie is like, oh well, what do you think about that? Right? Like to try to get a little bit of a to get my child used to like thinking about what he's watching and not just, you know, consuming, but actually like thinking about the things that he's seeing. So that sometimes like I'm like, "Ooh, how do you feel about that?" He's like, "Oh, that's horrible." Right? So I'm like, "Okay, okay, okay, we're good." Like, okay, cool. We're good. Um, because again, I don't think that there's anything wrong with interacting with media that is depicting terrible things or that is depicting horror. So long as it, for me anyway, it makes it much more interesting when the person who is creating this kind of story is aware of what they're creating. Like if you accidentally create a horror story, like I don't know that that's really interesting to me. Like that's just like, oh shit, that's kind of like life. Whereas if you intentionally create a horror story, then that can be a lot of fun, right? Because then we know that it's a story and it's not just, oh, I used a thing that happened to one of my buddies or that one of my buddies did, and then look, ha ha ha. It's like, no, that's actually horrifying. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think ultimately I would always rather the the message be the implied message, because you can then tell a more concrete story. You can then work it into the narrative better, and you can then be part of the conversation with your audience. But yeah, like this is not the right way to do it. Again, I will always still say I'm happy that despite the intent, we as an audience, or at least you and I, and from the sounds of it, more of the audience have used it as a learning opportunity, as a conversation piece, which I think is the better outcome. It reminds me very briefly of my time working in video game sales and having to remind a parent that this game is rated M. Are you buying this for a child? Because it might not be appropriate for them. And some just, I don't care, whatever, my kid plays games. But it was those parents who said, like, oh, I'm aware they're only allowed to play the game with me, so that when things come up that are M rated, we can discuss it and make sure they understand what it is, why it's M rated, and why it might not be for someone in their age group, and use it as a learning opportunity. I'm just like, applause. That's, you know what? Gold. That is it.
Yeah, there you go. And that's the thing, like media literacy isn't really taught in schools. And that's okay. But that means that it falls on parents, it falls on other people to kind of like teach that. And so here we are.
This week, we have a message from Melanie. Before we listen to it, we want to remind you to send us a 3-minute voicemail to respond to anything we discussed today or ask us a question. You can use the recording app on your phone and email us that recording at carryingwayward@gmail.com.
Hi, Carrying Wayward. My name is Melanie. I have been following you guys for a little while now, but I am only caught up to your episode that you guys did where you discussed Sam Interrupted, with them breaking into the mental institution with the Wraith. And I wanted to leave a comment or bring up a couple of questions to consider, barring you guys don't talk about this later, you might. But you kind of discussed a lot regarding Dean's childhood and his view with some of the abuse within the dynamic of his family, because of John Winchester. And one of the things that I haven't significantly heard you guys commenting or talking about yet or discussing was the impact of household domestic violence has had potentially on Sam. Like, obviously, domestic violence has impacted the entire family because it filters out everywhere. And I say this as being someone who came from a household with domestic violence, with siblings as well, is at bare minimum the bystander impact, even if you're not the focus of said violence and abuse, can be really impactful for wanting to potentially shield others, especially with the helplessness that you can feel as a child witnessing abuse in a household. And I think that's where I don't see a lot of people discussing it in any parts of the fandom or in my rewatches, where it makes me irritated with Dean not dealing with his own issues, is that Sam is literally going against everything to kind of break that cycle of violence within his family and throughout his life, hence, running off to California and whatnot. And at least I identified with Sam a lot more in the series several times over, is for the fact that Sam ends up being the scapegoat for that universe because he's not the right one. Because everyone kind of views Dean as the said chosen one. And since Sam is dirty via having like demon blood or being like Lucifer's vessel and all of that, like even things that are not 100% a result of Sam's actions, Sam will take responsibility for it and tries to fix things. Like he is the fixer. Well, he's the one trying to change the family dynamics more. So Dean is more of the fixer and the enabler and the buffer in the situation, which is kind of what I was in my own household growing up. But it would be very interesting if you guys could comment or discuss more if you're not already. And I'm sorry I'm rambling. I get nervous when I try to record myself. So this is why this is like my 6th attempt to try to send you guys anything at this point. But yeah, if you guys could comment on just impact of like domestic violence in a household and like the Winchester dynamic ongoing, I think could be pretty cool. Thank you so much, and hopefully I'll catch up to you guys soon. Thank you.
Melanie, your 6th attempt was fantastic. Thank you so much for this voicemail. I feel like we have talked about this a little bit more, especially as the seasons went on. But I actually completely agree with you. I think of course there's fandom dynamics, there's fandom like, drama over it, but I think that one of the reasons why we tend to focus on Dean as having experienced domestic violence at the hands of John is specifically because, to put it into the words of the show, he took the beatings, right? Like that was, and so like, and people, this is the part I think that kind of always gets me. People are like, well, at least Sam didn't take the beatings. And do you not think that that would not have an effect on Sam either? Like the fact that his big brother got the beatings instead of him, like, do you not think that that would have an effect on him? Like, do you not think that that is traumatizing in its own way? I feel like the argument is getting a little too close for comfort to like, oh, well, he wasn't abused because he wasn't hurt or he wasn't physically hurt. And I'm like, I don't like that. So, I mean, I think that you're very judiciously pointing out the fact that Sam is also a survivor of domestic abuse and that it affects him in a lot of aspects of his life. And I think that part of like his loss of control or his issues about control also are related to that, right? Like because if you're never in control of anything, right? Because he was the youngest, he didn't really understand everything that was going on. By the time he understood, the dynamic was probably so entrenched already that there was no changing it. Like, how does a child in Sam's situation, how can they possibly feel some kind of agency over their life? Like, it's just, um, it really is mind-blowing, frankly. So I thank you very much for bringing that up because I think it's a topic that we don't talk about enough often in the fandom or in this side of the fandom, maybe.
No, Melanie, again, this was a beautiful voicemail and well said and just well expressed. And I think you're right. Like I looked over our notes briefly from that episode, and I think we do touch on Dean in that respect almost entirely. I don't think we ignore Sam per se, but we definitely don't focus on it the way we do Dean. But Mary, you are right. We have discussed this in more detail, and I knew we did, and I finally found the episode where we do it.
Oh, which one was it?
Bear with me. Plucky Penny Whistle's Magical Menagerie. I got it right for once.
Yes! Of course, the clown episode. Oh, Sammy.
I've had that page open in front of me with the title on it, just so I could read it properly, but it has the rainbow version of the splash at the beginning, like as a GIF underneath it. So I've just watched
Yes.
rainbow blood blowing up my screen for the last like minute.
Excellent.
But again, that is I think an episode we really get to look into Sam's upbringing and childhood, where we really get to explore that because you're right, Melody, like 100%. It is not like the people who say like, well, Dean took the beating, so Sam's totally fine. Are people who clearly have not watched the show enough because like,
Sam
have you
is
looked
fine.
at Sam? Yeah,
Biggest lie.
Sam's totally fine.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'll stop interrupting you.
No, it's fine. But that specifically in season 7, episode 14. I'm not saying it again. We do get to focus on Sam a bit more, and I think that's a spot where we were given the chance to almost like look back on the times we've discussed Dean's upbringing and how we focused on him and realizing that Sam definitely, well, yes, wasn't the one taking the physical part of the beating, is definitely suffering from that trauma. And it is something that shapes their relationship, shapes the way they view family, shapes the way they view each other. And again, like you said, the way they even interact, like Dean's need to protect versus Sam's need to have like a semblance of control, are two very different responses to a very similar core trauma. But at the end of the day, if they're to almost go back a little bit to our story time a little bit there and our critical time a little bit, is that media literacy standpoint of the looking at it and reading it. And while I think with the advent of the Plucky Penny Castle Whistle episode, god damn it, it is very clearly
Plucky Penny Whistle Thistle.
Thistle Whistle
I'm
Club.
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's again, we're laughing in a traumatic time. That's our way of dealing with shit. But my point being is this is an example of where it really feels like whoever wrote that episode really understood what they wanted to get across, and were able to write a phenomenal episode. It's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's heartwarming. It's an episode that has stuck with me quite literally. And I think besides the name being a joke at this point with me, it is an episode that does so much for Sam as far as making us understand him more. And it's because they understood what they wanted to get across to us as the viewer through the trauma he experienced as a child.
Now I'm just really curious if Melanie is still listening to this show or not, because I don't know, maybe we just didn't talk enough about Sam for a little while and then they were like, maybe I'm just done with this podcast. I don't know.
Hopefully they made it to that one, and hopefully they'll get here and be like, you're right, you did. Thank you. And I'm glad you followed up. I'm going to say now, Melanie, if you hear this, let us know, but that who knows how long that's going to be at this point. I mean, these are going to go out, but how long do you get? I don't know. You know what I mean? Anyways, thank you for the voicemail. And I only hope you get to hear us discuss Sam the way you envisioned it. So what did we learn this week?
Well, I personally find it really hard to talk about consent in a nuanced way, just because there is such a need to not talk about it in a nuanced way, as a very like black and white kind of thing, because of the society that we live in. However, this episode really made me think about how sometimes, like in popular discourse, we tend to talk about like informed consent to talk about sexual encounters, and informed consent is actually like a legal term that applies to medical procedures and to research. And it's specifically used to mitigate potential abuses of power, right? Because really, like consent or lack of consent, or violating consent or rape also, which we've talked about in this episode, is about power. And in this episode, we see a bunch of situations where one party has power over another and abuses that power in order to betray or to violate the trust of another. And so what I've learned is that I wish that we could have more nuanced discussions about consent. Um, and I understand why we can't.
No, you're right. It's such a. I'm always brought back to the show Black Mirror. There is an episode where these two characters are hooking up in like a distant dystopian future, like a semi-futuristic future, and the female character says to the male character, "Did you bring protection?" And he goes, "Yes," and pulls out a camera where they both say into the camera, "I consent to this sexual activity." And it is, I think, played as a joke, even in a show that is normally not funny, but is, again, in the way the show does, show us these dark, like, creepy extremes the world can be in. Like the fact that like a future where that might be a thing or like be a reasonable thing to expect people to do is just like, it's so weird, because there's the part of me that's like, that seems so insane, but also the part of me where it's like, consent matters. You shouldn't be making a joke out of it like this. And I don't know how to feel about that specific scene.
Well, it's so I'm thinking about this. So I've never seen Black Mirror. I haven't seen the scene that you're talking about. But the first kind of feelings that I have here is that you're talking about like it being made a joke. Who is like the joke is at the expense of who in this case? Like that's kind of the fact that that's what kind of gets me a little like again rolling my eyes about this. It's like, okay, so did you bring protection? So like they have to protect who is really protecting themselves against quote unquote allegations here. So anyway, I am a feminist killjoy. I will continue to forever be a feminist killjoy. This is not funny to me. That's not quite where I was going with the idea of like nuanced consent, but there you go. I think that is why we cannot talk nuancedly about consent, because people will just take it to places that are just like not at all where it's meant to go. There you go.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to take us in a bit of a different direction. I'm again going to make a shout out and reminder that I will be putting a link in the show notes to Totally Normal About That podcast, specifically the episode on Wedding Crashers they had me on as a guest for, because this week I am reminded just how awful the actions of pretty much every character in this film was. Like, while like, yes, the two main wedding crashers themselves and their actions and the deception they go through to crash these weddings, ultimately to hook up and have sex with women, is despicable. Every character, we basically discuss how every single one of the characters like is irredeemable by the end of it. And it reminds me just how important it is to be critical of media. Like, I mean, we do it here with Supernatural every episode, and we're not shy about calling out bullshit. But there are so many other pieces of media that get laughed off for being just dumb comedies that, upon reflection, are hugely problematic. And I know there are people out there who watch that movie still to this day and don't bat an eye at what is happening. So I am just going to remind people to keep calling out bullshit.
I've never seen Wedding Crashers.
Oh my God.
I don't like this genre of movies. I just don't like it. And people again call me unfunny and tell me that I don't have a sense of humor for it, but I just don't think it's funny. That's all. Like it's okay. It's not for me.
And you know what, for me, I fully admit it on their show. At this point, we've cut around to outro. We're just chatting now. But like, I fully admit, like, talking about it, like, on their show was a moment of like, oh yeah, when I saw this in theaters, I thought it was the funniest shit ever. We quoted it, we made jokes, we referenced it. but it's looking at it through a critical lens and realizing like, oh, it's fucked up. Like this is the kind of movie that like should not be shown to people anymore, except as an example of like how fucked up things can be. And there are like, and again, like if that's people's opinion of you because you don't want to watch this movie, fuck right off. That movie does not hold up, and it shouldn't have. There are much better comedies, and at the end of the day, I'm down for horror movies anyways.
This was Carrying Wayward, a supernatural podcast produced by Rochelle Castellano, hosted by Marie Vigourou
and Drew Schulman. Thank you to everyone supporting us on Ko-fi or Patreon,
including our bunker patrons, Jeremiah Thomas and Michelle.
We'd also like to thank Jake Lionheart for our music.
Head over to carryingwayward.com to become a patron or a Ko-fi subscriber, and for our merch store and our socials. And write us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Carry on, our wayward friends.